The game we're going to play. This is an experiment. I have no idea whether it works. I call this the 7 degrees of quality separation.
Okay.
Okay. I have no idea whether this is going to work. It could be a complete flop. But it occurred to me that
you're relying on my brain.
I'm relying on your brain.
Give you something you can work with here.
So I had this idea. It was because we were talking in the bullpen the other day that almost any news item, anything that comes down the line, somewhere somebody in quality is somehow related to that story or could be related to that story. Mm-hmm. So I just took 3 stories that have been in the news this week, and I'm just going to throw them at you, and I'll help you out. I've thought about these a little bit, but see if you can think of where somebody in quality might be related to that story. So obviously the first big story, North Korea, right? I mean, Kim Jong-un and President Trump, they're going at it, and the rhetoric is going up, and sanctions and all that stuff. Somewhere in all that, how does, and it could be 3 degrees separated, but how does a quality person come into that?
I mean, the first thing I think of is that we're hoping that because it's such an insular society there that they don't participate really in the international community, you're hoping that their quality processes aren't as good as ours. You're hoping that the quality managers, the people that are doing their work
at the missile,
at the wherever the R&D. Hopefully those people,
they haven't read Deming or used the TPS.
I don't know. Maybe they're watching us right now. But hopefully you're hoping that they don't have the same processes that we have, or that Western Europe.
I hadn't even thought about that.
How did you think of it?
Mine was a little bit more removed. North Korea is a supplier of. They do sell stuff to some other. So if they are on your supply chain, you've got to be aware of North Korea's kind of volatility and how this kind of stuff.
It's a risk management.
So it's a risk management of your supply chain. It's like, okay, we have a vendor in North Korea. Yeah. North Korea is kind of like all wibbly wobbly sometimes. Yeah. And as a risk management, how do I deal with a vendor who's in North Korea?
Well, I mean, more likely it's going to be either South Korea or Japan, where your vendors that you work with, who are you going to have to deal with, or China.
Or China.
Those are the countries that are around North Korea that really are much more threatened by North Korea than we are here in the United States. Those are the countries where you probably have suppliers. I don't think North Korea really does supply very much in the international commerce, but the countries around them as heck do.
You got to be looking at
South Korea is a huge economy, and that's what I would be thinking about.
Okay, next story. Did you see the story? This was in London. Jogger going across a bridge.
Yes.
Apparently pushes a woman.
Yeah.
Okay, so where's the connection there?
For quality?
Yeah.
Or
related.
Or related. Well, I mean, is there some kind of a system that would allow you to error-proof that, so that when joggers are in an area where buses may be coming, that they're in a tunnel, or maybe they only can go one at a time or something.
So kind of a poke-yoke.
A poke-yoke.
That's interesting. That's an interesting thought.
Is that what you thought about too?
Close. I was actually thinking more in terms of autonomous vehicles. The bus swerved because the driver was on it, but one of the things that they're looking at on autonomous vehicles is how do you detect if somebody runs out from in between a car, or a kid chases a ball, is how do you detect that?
That's right.
So you're thinking poke-yoke prevention, which is a good one, and I'm thinking of mitigation is how do we respond? So somewhere somebody is looking at these things going, that kind of thing could happen. If I'm making my autonomous vehicle, can I deal with that? Okay, one last one. Also in the news, New Orleans has got some interesting stuff going on there. They have torrential rainfall happening right now. Mm-hmm. They had a fire in one of the electrical subsystems that supplies power to their big pumps that are responsible for taking the water out and sending it somewhere else.
Right.
And so the concern is there a chance of a pump's not being able to run because there's not going to be any power able to keep the pumps going, and you could have flooding simply because of a power failure.
Right, you could. So how does that relate to quality?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I will say this: that there's some parts of the world that people just shouldn't live in. People should not live in New Orleans. People should not live in the Sahara. I mean, there's parts of the world that Greenland. I mean, it's like, don't live there. You know, I mean, obviously New Orleans is going to flood regularly. Don't live there. Move somewhere else. Move to Galveston, which only floods every 50 or 60 years.
Or the Florida coast. That gets a hurricane every year.
Florida coast that only gone in 40 years. But I mean, it's like...
Or Jersey Beach somewhere.
Exactly.
You never know what's going to wash up on that
How
beach.
does that relate to quality? Well, I mean, just through better, quality technicians need to check those pipes. I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Or again, redundancy risk. Although I'm sure that's there. I mean, but again, it's just one of those things. Is if you have something, if part of your infrastructure, which is really important in this case for keeping water out, if there is a chance of failure in there, how many redundancies do you have, and how many should you have? I mean,
well, and I made a little joke about that. I'm sorry to the New Orleans people, but I mean,
we love New Orleans.
But yes, we do. But the fact of the matter is, if you are in New Orleans and you are in that grid, in that system, you need to be more aware that this is more likely, that the flooding, hurricanes, this type of weather, this is an issue that would be more of a likely issue than, say, in Central California, where we get no rain or not much rain. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so you got to consider, although we had a almost big flood from our dam. But what I'm saying is, I mean, that's part of the FMEA is to understand the potentiality of, the frequency of potentially a damaging risk, a risky situation, as well as the severity of it happening. So, if you're in New Orleans, you need to be more aware that this is something that could frequently happen and take steps to mitigate it.
Very good, very good. So actually, the reason I found this interesting is because this almost went back to Christopher Martin's story on the traveling Ono circle.
Oh yeah.
And this is kind of that same idea. Is just as a mind exercise, is take a look at a news item and think, okay, somewhere, somehow, somebody related to quality is going to be affected in some way by this news event, and it's just kind of is a brain exercise. It's just kind of fun, just to kind of think through it and say, well, how might that be?
And it's important. The work that all you do out there is very important, and that's a good example of that as well. So.
Yep. Yeah.